Now, before I begin, let me preemptively answer a question that some of you might wonder. Did Richard memorize all of these details? No, ad-libbing, that leads to too many digressions that we don't have time for on a tight schedule. And I will be reading some quotations from researchers. So I prefer to carefully write a script. But I have watched too many Zoom lectures where the presenter is looking down at the script the whole time. You probably have too. We humans prefer eye contact. We feel more connected that way. So I will be reading my script, but through a teleprompter on my phone. I think that's much friendlier. And then, after quoting medical research on stress, the thoughts will indeed be my own, whether I'm reading them or ad-libbing them. Okay, here is my talk for today. In 1999, I took a sabbatical, staying at a writing cabin of a friend of mine, Sid Hetzler. There, I did in-depth research on the stress response and ways that stress can be lowered by dance and how we relate to others through dancing. The reason for this research was that my Stanford students lived especially stressful lives on campus, and they often told me how my classes and the evening dances helped de-stress them. And I had been taking note on this in my own life for decades. So I wanted to know how and why this was so in closer detail. And I did learn a lot about the stress response. Now, I have used what I've learned since then in several ways, but I thought that this would be a good topic for a talk on this winter weekend. Because lately, the impact of stress on our emotional and physical health has become an especially important issue. Many people are now living with elevated stress levels in ways that accumulate. And even without today's politics and economic uncertainty and the increasing threat of a nuclear war, life can feel stressful. As you no doubt know, anxiety and the stress evoked by life's pressures have the greatest weight of scientific evidence connecting it to the onset of sickness and the course of recovery. Chronic stress in particular, low-grade, long-term stress, is especially harmful. Now, each species has its particular vulnerabilities, and for human beings, chronic stress, that's our weak point. Now, acute short-term stress, that's different. That's a survival mechanism, which can benefit us, of course. When anxiety helps us prepare to deal with real danger, then it serves us well. So in the Stone Age, the stress response prepared humans to fight or to run away. Distress was an effective survival instinct. So the next time a lion chases you down the street, you want to have a good hormonal response so that you can escape. And that's exactly the problem. Our responses to modern life were finely tuned for survival in the Pleistocene era, and they simply don't serve us well today. It would be great if we could upgrade to Instincts 2025, but we are hardwired for Instincts 1 million BC. Today, we often have to live with chronic, relentless stress, which is something that humans just didn't have before, not like this. In modern life, anxiety is more often out of proportion and out of place. Distress now comes in the face of situations that we must live with or are conjured by the mind, not real dangers that we need to confront or that we can run away from. And the toll of anxiety is not only that it lowers the immune response, but other research is showing adverse effects on the cardiovascular system. So I found it's helpful to understand exactly what's happening in the stress response. So here is a brief sketch of how it works. Robert Sapolsky is professor of neuroscience here at Stanford University. He's one of the world's leading researchers in the biology of stress, and much of this is from his work. So the stress response begins when a gland in the brain called the hypothalamus receives information about a perceived threat and initiates a series of reactions resulting in the production of the hormone cortisol. Cortisol converts fat and muscle into glucose, which is the brain's fuel. It enables us to think fast, while simultaneous release of adrenaline, noradrenaline, and testosterone enables us to act quickly. This is the fight or flight response. It's a good thing in brief doses. But when people experience prolonged or repeated stress, cortisol levels rise and can remain high for hours or days or longer. Prolonged elevation of cortisol is not a good thing. Then elevated levels of adrenaline, noradrenaline, and testosterone can cause reactivity and aggression. And then another set of hormones which kick in during our stress response are the endorphins, which help you cope with the pain of a particular injury, to enable prehistoric humans to keep running or fighting if they've lost a limb, rather than giving up because of the pain. So what these hormones do is mobilize energy. They increase your blood pressure. They increase your heart rate. And this, of course, is central to the fight or flight response. So this response has been fundamental to the evolution of all animal species. And it's remarkable about how powerful this stress response can be. Take, for example, the cheetah deer. Dr. Rosalie Chappell made a detailed study of the extreme stress response of cheetah deer. So cheetah deer are from India, where their natural predator in the wild is the tiger. Now, what happened when they brought these deer into a captive situation, as they did in farms in Australia, is that the animal can't flee from what it sees as danger presented by humans being right there in their yard. So they go into this state which they describe as capture myopathy. Now, visually, they appear calm. They seem to be calm. People approach the deer, and the deer will just stand there. However, what they found is if, let's say, they did that for 15 minutes, then let them back out into the paddock, within an hour, one or two of those deer would just lie down and die. So their normal adaptive response is to have everything geared up so that they can run as fast as they can possibly go, away from a tiger. So that stress response is still happening inside. But when they can't run, and all of these physiological parameters can't do anything, the organs fail internally. Humans don't do that. But just as the cheetah deer are poorly adapted to captivity, humans fare particularly badly with long-term stress. So why does chronic stress immobilize our immune system? How is that a survival function? The answer is that chronic stress shuts down many of our systems, including the immune system. So here is from Robert Sapolsky. This is from an interview. Okay, a little bit more on the basic stress response that you would see in a zebra or a lion. Again, mobilizing energy, delivering it quickly by increasing blood pressure and the heart rate. Now, the next thing you do is you turn off all sorts of long-term building projects in the body. If there is a crisis going on right now, today is not the day to spend your energy on non-essentials. During stress, you turn off digestion. When you're trying to avoid being somebody's lunch, you don't worry about eating breakfast. You turn off growth. You turn off reproduction. These are very logical things to shut down. These are energy-wise, expensive, optimistic things to do. And basically, you're running for your life. So this is not the time to ovulate or make sperm. You probably know about stress-related reproduction issues. And you also, therefore, shut down the immune system. The immune system, which is absolutely critical for making antibodies that will be useful in a few weeks from now for spotting a tumor that would otherwise kill you in 6 months. Immunity, though, doesn't come cheap. So it's that same logic again. Do it later if there is a later. So the bottom line here is that humans have an incredible proclivity toward stress-related disease. And what about the research which shows the adverse effects of chronic stress on the cardiovascular system? Well, in the fight or flight response, the stress hormones flood the body and are then used up by activating the muscles in the fight or the flight. But in low-level, continual stress, the body doesn't utilize or use up the stress hormones. So they end up building plaque within the blood vessels and the heart and the capillaries of the brain. So right now, I'm guessing you're beginning to drift off, right? Mostly because I'm describing the stress response abstractly. So let me wake you up with an example. Now, I'm not doing this to scare you about the dangers of chronic stress. The last thing we need is to be stressed about feeling stressed. But it's for this reason. When we understand exactly what's going on inside, we can begin to develop effective strategies to reduce the problem. Okay, it's 5:30 in the afternoon, and Martin has left the office and is heading home. He is about to have a very bad traffic day. Oh no, it's happening again. Happens every time I hit this stretch of road. There it is, the big truck poking along at 45 miles an hour. They shouldn't let trucks on this road in the first place. Look at this guy. He's slowing down on the hill. He doesn't know how to drive. Come on, pick it up. So Martin gets mad rather quickly. Pretty often, too. He's never actually run anybody off the road or hit anybody, so what difference does it make? Well, what happens to a person who is anger or anxiety prone is that they tend to blame other people when things are not going as they want them to. So while Martin is sitting there in his car, beginning to blame people, this trigger goes off in his brain, in the left hemisphere, that activates a signal down to his amygdala. And that then sends another signal down to the hypothalamus, which triggers the fight or flight response, telling his body that he's facing an emergency situation. Do you see me sitting here behind you, Mr. Fat Truck, Mr. Brain Dead? Well, how about this? Do you see me flashing my lights? No? How about the horn, buddy? Do you want to hear that? So Martin's anger is now leading him down into an emergency stress response, when all this really happening is a slow truck ahead of him. Are you deaf? What's the matter with you people? Everyone's ruining my day. So now the sympathetic nervous system turns on and pumps adrenaline into the bloodstream. This causes the heart to beat faster, to pump more blood, which causes the blood vessels in the muscles to expand so that more blood can get to those muscles. And his blood pressure is surging. I don't believe this. Why does this always happen to me? So let's go inside Martin for a minute. Let's take a look at what's going on in his blood vessels. The surge of blood through the coronary arteries that feed the heart causes erosion of the lining of those arteries. That's the thin, one-cell thick layer of endothelium that lines these arteries. Those can be damaged by these blood pressure surges, with blood flowing at a very rapid rate, not unlike the way an overflowing stream can erode the banks. At the same time, Martin's fat cells are entering the bloodstream to furnish the extra energy he'll need in order to run away from the saber-toothed tiger. But since he isn't actually running, he's just sitting in his car, Martin's liver converts that extra fat into cholesterol. That cholesterol goes to those areas of endothelial damage, along with certain cells of the body's immune system, particularly the monocytes. The monocytes are attracted to this area of damage to help repair it. Ordinarily, that repair process goes smoothly, they do their job, and the damaged area is repaired. But with repeated activations of the flight or fight response, or continual low-grade stress, some of these monocytes become transformed into large cells called macrophages. Once they're stuck there, attached to the lining of the artery, the repair functions slow down, and they sit there and continue to generate an inflammatory response. More cholesterol comes to these areas. Macrophages suck up the cholesterol and become what they call foam cells, which are much larger cells with little globules of fat in them. And with repeated activation or repeated stress, more of these endothelial tearings occur. More monocytes are attracted, become macrophages, more cholesterol is absorbed, and the plaque grows, until you get to the point where what was formerly a wide open artery is now 75% blocked by plaque, or even more. Then you get a clot forming in there, and that clot totally blocks the artery. That, of course, is a heart attack. So, okay, that's the end of my short description of what goes on in the bloodstream during the stress response and in our whole body. So, what can we do about it? Well, one thing might help to just run off those stress hormones right away, or better yet, dance them off. Either way, use them up, as they would have been used running away from a saber-toothed tiger, rather than flooding the bloodstream, doing damage to our system. So exercise, dance. Except we often can't go out running or dancing at the moment we're stressed. like Martin stuck in his car. And running it off can't work with chronic stress, or else we'd always be running day and night. And I've not even addressed nighttime stress or insomnia, where you know that if you got up and ran, you'd be even more wide awake for hours. So we need a different solution. And that's also where dance comes in. The key awareness and the best solution is to realize that stress is not what happens to us. Stress is how we respond to what happens to us. And we do have some control over that. Philosophers have known this for ages, that our experience of life is how we perceive it and how we respond to it. Michel de Montaigne wrote, "A person is not hurt so much by what happens as by their opinion of what happens." He would tell us that our experience is not what happens to us. Our experience is what we make of what happens to us. Our experience is subjective. This is an important and potentially life-saving awareness. Our perception of our life is our life. And people have known this for a long time. Leo Tolstoy wrote, "Happiness does not depend on outward things, but on the way that we see them." For instance, happiness itself is the way to dance. It isn't something that we try to get from dancing. It's something that we bring to dancing. So leave your stress and striving at the door. Dancing can be a wonderful sanity break. Our workplace is sometimes stressful, so let's not also make work out of our pleasures. Effortful striving, pushing others, pushing ourselves, that will negate the healthful qualities of dance that can best benefit our life. And this brings us to another point. Dance is not necessarily a stress-reducing activity, nor does it necessarily provide a benefit to the immune system. This depends partially on what kind of dance and how we approach it and how we experience it. Competitive forms of dance can be stress-inducing, right? Sometimes extremely so, depending on how the dancer approaches it. So the healthful benefits of dance that I study pertain more to social dance that I teach than to competition ballroom dance. So what exactly is the healthiest way to dance? What's our best approach to life? Well, one anchor of personal sanity in life is the ability to clearly differentiate between what one wants and what one needs. With this clarity, we can be firm about what we need, but flexible, detached, and good-natured about what we merely want. Now, if we can differentiate what is necessary from what is optional, we can hopefully be happy to forego the optional. But the loose cannons in life, in my opinion, are those who cannot make this distinction. For them, they think they need everything that they want, and they continually impose upon those around them to get it. So whether this is due to faulty reasoning or immaturity, they sometimes behave like enforcers, pushing others to fulfill their wishes, which they think are needs. Do you know anyone like that? Who is always saying, "I need this," when they merely want it? Well, what we usually notice is how unpleasant they are, right? But if you look closer, with some compassion, you can see that they're living in a high state of stress about not getting what they want, and they're generally unhappy with their life. So this ability to differentiate between what we want and what we need is essential to stress reduction as well. So let's look at what this has to do with dance. And this time I will be talking more about partnered social dance, although you can probably find parallels to the kind of dancing that you do. Okay, leading a partner through a social dance can be a clarifying exercise in differentiating what is necessary from what is optional. Ideally, leading a dance is nothing more than clearly suggesting an option. That is, leading should never be more than influencing, never controlling. It's proposing a certain way of moving, not prescribing it. If your partner does not go along with the proposal, does not follow, refrain from exerting more power to press the other to accept a proposal, and instead adapt to where your partner is actually going and move with them. But a firm lead is occasionally necessary, like to prevent a collision, or if you need to change momentum. So it has its place. But usually we find that an easygoing, adaptive lead is more appropriate and is more considerate and friendly. So we do both, the firm and the adaptive leads when dancing, each when appropriate. And in so doing, we become better at differentiating what is necessary from what is optional. And we discover over and over that if our partner does not go along with our suggestion, our lead, the result usually turns out just as well as what we intended, if not better. A lesson in life as well. If things don't work out one way, they'll work out another way. So fortunately, the realm of social dance is wonderfully optional. As we dance, we constantly discover new opportunities, which open doors to possibilities, as opposed to rules and restrictions that close doors. We generously adjust our own dancing to be compatible with our various dance partners, rather than insisting that they conform to us. We enjoy the individuality of our dance partners as a lead or a follow, and we continually modify our dancing to maximize their comfort, maximize their pleasure. Then, once we discover all of these benefits of this awareness on the dance floor, we find that that applies to our other activities and our other relationships as well. These reminders of the benefits exemplified by our dancing help us maintain a healthy outlook on life. Not only healthy for our relationships and our friendships, but also for ourselves. Acceptance of things going the way they're going to go anyway, that lowers our stress. The tiniest disagreement or glitch in our plans could be made into a big deal if our goal, conscious or unconscious, is to have everything work out in our favor. That's nothing more than a prescription for unhappiness and frustration. The truth is that life is rarely exactly the way we want it to be, and other people often don't act the way we would like them to. There will always be people who disagree with us, people who do things differently, and things that don't work out. If we fight against this principle of life, we'll spend most of our life fighting battles and generally be unhappy with life. Living life that way not only disrupts our center, throwing us off balance and making us unhappy, but it is a genuine health risk. So this ability to differentiate between what we want and what we need, that's essential to stress reduction as well. I like the way Reinhold Niebuhr put it, and you've probably heard this before. Give us the grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things that should be changed, and the wisdom to know the difference. And note that acceptance is given the first priority over changing something. And also note the specification of changing things that should be changed. It's sometimes tempting to be a busybody, meddling in others' affairs, trying to change them into the way that we think that they should be. But maybe their behavior isn't something that needs to be changed. Maybe we can say to ourselves, I don't have to catch that ball, and be perfectly happy with the outcome, including the way that they like to dance. So in accepting that, not catching that ball, that also doesn't de-stress them by pushing them. So to clarify, this is another separate way to prevent getting stressed about something that doesn't need to be a stressor. Just think to yourself, I don't have to catch that ball, and dodge that potential stressor. Now, your response to all of this might be, but I can't help it. My job is stressful, or this relationship is stressful. Okay, I have a specific suggestion which works. Each time that we can say to ourselves, okay, I can live with that, that's a victory over stress. One can retain a relative calm peace of mind and can continue to operate with all channels open. Another version is, okay, I can live without that. That works just as well. Now, I am not advocating a Pollyannish, don't worry, be happy, sugarcoating of our troubles. No, the emphasis here is on a realistic appreciation of what we have to the extent that we have it, and recognizing that we don't really need some things, differentiating between what we can do without and what we truly need. But yes, sometimes we do have to take a firm stand, perhaps for moral or ethical reasons. For instance, the example of Rosa Parks, the civil rights activist. If Rosa Parks and others had not acted on their anger in the 1950s and 60s, people would still be riding in the back of the bus because of their skin color. So sometimes anger is a signal that we do need to take action. And if it is, then take the action to try to correct whatever the situation is. And if it's not essential, then relax, calm yourself so that stress hormones don't cause you to get sick or lead to an early death by a heart attack. So yes, each time that we can say to ourselves, okay, I can live with that, is a victory over stress. And if you can't, then you can't. But you'll likely surprise yourself by how often you can say, okay, I can live with that, and be quite happy with the outcome. And you end up stressing other people less at the same time, thereby helping them be healthier as well. Even better, truly appreciate an element of the situation. It's easier to accept something if you also appreciate it or appreciate someone. Now, this response also keeps you smarter. How is that? Well, you have probably had an experience of doing or saying something stupid or something you regret while being in a state of being emotionally hijacked, usually with anger. Yes? Your calm mind is much smarter and wiser. You can always reappraise a situation if you've succeeded in retaining your mental clarity in the present moment. That's why you want, okay, I can live with that, to be your automatic first response, to remain clear-headed. And then, well, no, actually, I can't this time. That can be your second response, if necessary, but evaluated with a calm, clear mind. So saying, I can live with that is like an automatic first response. It's like an instantaneous diffuser to prevent negative emotions from hijacking your mind. Here's why this approach is so important. Saying to yourself, okay, I can live with that after you get angry, that doesn't work because it is essentially fighting stress with logic, right? Does that ever work? No, not really. And that anger is a serious health risk. If something or someone really upsets us, we can feel the stress hormones coursing through our bloodstream, causing all kinds of damage. It's too late to start using logic. The trigger has been pulled. And besides, our emotionally hijacked brain isn't very logical. We're already down that road of anger and impulsive behavior that we're going to regret. Oh, if only I could have avoided getting mad in the first place, I would have been much better off. Yes, exactly. So how can we preemptively ward off stress or anger? Well, I've mentioned one way to make, okay, I can live with that, your default automatic response. But another way, in one word, is compassion. The ability to understand someone else's viewpoint, to empathize with their side of the situation in advance. We won't get as easily mad at someone if we understand, or if we want to understand, where they are coming from. And that's also maturity, isn't it? Have you noticed that the most mature people are also the calmest ones at any age, young or old? And the hotheads are usually the least mature, right? This also involves respect for others. That's a large part of compassion and maturity. So when I'm out driving, what I do, if someone cuts me off in the road or some other incursion, what I do is automatically have the first response of, one, that may have been my fault. Now, it probably wasn't, and that fact can be my second thought, but anything that lowers stress as a first response is good, right? For the reasons that I mentioned. Or two, I think maybe they had a good reason for doing that weird thing. And that often is true, isn't it? So this is my default, always. Same with daily life with my wife, Tracy. That may have been my fault. Or she's probably had a good reason for doing that or saying that. This is not low self-esteem. It's intentionally staying in my calm, logical state of mind to better perceive and appraise the situation. Then my second response can be from a calm, smarter analysis. So, as we're talking about de-stressing, we're also thinking about relaxing, right? Well, many people think so. So let's look at that closer. There are a few myths about relaxation, which are helpful to understand. That is, helpful to know that these myths aren't necessarily true. Number one, for many people, relaxation is something that we do later. You get to relax at the end of the day after working, or on vacation, or when you retire. But that implies, of course, that the other 95% of your life should be spent stressed, agitated, rushed, and frenzied. Now, you might not come out and say that, but that's the implication. Most of us postpone relaxation until our in basket is empty, but of course, it never is. But some people and some cultures have found that relaxation can be how you respond to life now, not later. Carry a sense of relaxation with you wherever you go, whatever you do. It's helpful to remember that relaxed people can still be superachievers. And many studies have shown that relaxation and creativity go hand in hand. I think we tend to think of relaxing as the same way of sleeping. We tacitly accept that relaxation is a kind of periodic rejuvenation. But relaxing can be an ongoing process, not just an occasional refresher. It is an ongoing regeneration, sustaining a relaxed, peaceful, aware state of mind, keeping a centered peacefulness with you. So bring relaxation into your daily life. Recharge your batteries as you go. Make your full workday a kind of a moving meditation. The idea is that when you leave at 5 o'clock, you're as fresh as when you arrived in the morning. Well, easier said than done, right? Yes, I agree. So maybe we need a manageable practice, a first step to getting there. It is a worthwhile goal. So one great way is by dancing. One can see dancing as a transitional first step to being able to do this in one's daily life, as a practice to make it more tangible. But you might say, dancing is far too active. When I relax, I kick up my heels, lay back, and really relax. So myth number 2 is that relaxation is passive, quiet. That's because somewhere along the line, our society has equated calm with slow. But this isn't necessarily so. It's easily possible to move quickly and patiently, mindfully, moving fast because you've chosen to. Now think back to the last time that you felt completely calm and centered, maybe blissfully serene. When was that? Chances are, in that instance, your circumstances were wonderfully calm and stress-free. Maybe being calm and especially relaxed wasn't actually a state that you consciously entered, but it was the result of you being in calm surroundings. Well, that's too easy. We have to live with the fact that life doesn't give us those peaceful circumstances throughout every day. One of my greatest discoveries in life was that one can remain calm, centered, and relaxed while being highly active, even in the midst of people continually throwing challenges at you. I call this dynamic equanimity. I first discovered this through the practice of kendo, Japanese fencing, and that's me in the center there. Kendo continually has challenges coming at you, and we learn over and over and over again that if one is relaxed and calm while flitting around the floor, we can react much more quickly and precisely. Then, as soon as we feel any stress or anger at our opponent, we don't do nearly as well. We get hit on the head, bonk, by a wooden sword. So being both calm and highly active can go quite well together. And then I simply transferred that to dancing. Feeling relaxed in the midst of chaos. Feeling that you're like the eye of a hurricane on the dance floor. Maintaining serenity while being surrounded by the turbulent chaos on a dance floor. And you can share this calm state with a dance partner. Now, developing and maintaining dynamic serenity does take a bit of practice. You can't just nod your head, agree that dynamic equanimity would be a good thing, and then expect this acknowledgement will somehow automatically reduce your stress. No, we need a practice to integrate this into our lives. First, in a controlled situation, I recommend dancing with lots of practice on the dance floor, and then take it beyond into even more stressful areas like jobs, relationships, driving your car in heavy traffic. In driving, some people maneuver with calm ease, while others zoom around with anxiety, tension, frustration, aggression, often with anger, if not road rage. This is the same with steering through traffic on the dance floor. It can be stressful if you choose to make it that way, or you can use this time on the dance floor to relax. Enter that wonderful flow state of relaxed responsiveness, of alert tranquility. Flowing like water, you pay attention to circumstances and you listen to your own intuition. This isn't the best time to do that. I'd better go that way. All it is being sensitive to circumstances in a relaxed manner. That's important in dancing for both lead and follow roles. Now, as I say it, being calm is not life's primary goal. If that's all we want out of life, why get up in the morning? Stay in your calm bed. No, being calm is something we need to be in order to be more aware of life and to function better, to be more receptive and observant, and to be healthier. The fuller experiences come from the pluses, not from the calm alone. Our focus is on living life fully, actively, dynamically, and without stress, which can cancel out all of those benefits. That's how to manage stress in a nutshell, especially through dancing. But I prefer to think of this topic in the bigger picture of holistic health. Sigmund Freud's complete works contain over 400 references to pathology and neurosis, but none to health. Psychologist Abraham Maslow, on the other hand, defined a word called eupsychic. These are factors which he said facilitate well-being. He mentioned that so much of psychology is based on negative factors and stress that we tend to ignore what he called the eupsychic or the positive factors, which facilitate high-level wellness. So here are a few related benefits besides reducing stress. Not just reducing the negative side, but increasing the positive side. One of these eupsychic factors is connectedness. There are a number of studies which show that people who feel isolated have 3 to 5 times the mortality rate, not only from cardiovascular disease, but from all causes, compared to those who don't feel isolated. Robert Sapolsky's study showed the positive effects of connecting, lessening isolation, on women with cancer. There has been much collected evidence that shows that those who feel connected to friends live significantly longer than those who feel isolated. So to clarify, being alone does not equal feeling isolated. And conversely, mingling in a crowd or at a dance party does not equal feeling connected. We're all familiar with the stories about feeling completely isolated while living in crowded New York City. So going out dancing will not necessarily dispel feelings of loneliness until you genuinely connect with the people there. And in so doing, you enhance their feeling of being connected too. They'll benefit as well as you. In this way, you'll be happier and you'll live longer if you feel connected to a community of dance friends. And as I said, so will they. Now, in dancing and in life, there's another major way to lower our stress level and increase the positive boosts in a single word: kindness. In just hearing that word, kindness, can't you feel yourself getting calmer? So each day in my Stanford dance classes, when my students come into the dance studio, there is a large quote of the day that I put on our big display screen on the wall. And many of these quotations are about kindness. Here is one from Theodore Rubin. Kindness is more important than wisdom, and the recognition of this is the beginning of wisdom. From Daniel Goleman, self-absorption kills empathy. When we focus on ourselves, our world contracts as our problems loom large. But when we focus on others, our world expands. From Dale Carnegie, you can make more friends in a month by becoming interested in other people than you can in a year by trying to get other people interested in you. From Robert Heinlein, author of Stranger in a Strange Land, love is the condition in which the happiness of another person is essential to your own. I think that is the perfect definition of love. From the film critic Roger Ebert, who had been talking about coming-of-age movies, the term coming of age always seems to apply to teenagers, but you can come of age in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or maybe never. I define it as beginning to value other people for who they are, rather than what they can do for you. And perhaps my favorite quote is from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So yes, kindness is essential to how we relate to people when going out dancing and with everyone. But going back to the main topic of this talk, kindness also reduces our stress. So this overall realm is holistic wellness. Holistic meaning mind, body, and spirit. Every aspect of holistic wellness relates to every other aspect. Well, I suppose that if I'm going to use that word spirit, I should probably try to explain what I mean by that word, since everyone seems to have a different meaning of the word spirit. Some people think of spirit as a complementary opposite to soul, right? Most people agree with the definition of soul as one's deepest, innermost self. So imagine a sphere with many arrows pointing from the surface of the sphere down to its center, to its soul. Okay, so what is its complementary opposite? Spirit. Imagine many arrows pointing in the opposite direction, from the surface of the sphere outward, out to everyone. That's connectedness, feeling connected to a community of friends. Spirit. And then a connection to everything. I like the way Ram Dass put it. Quote, as I quiet down and I feel my connection to the universe more, I realize that I am a part of a family, I'm a part of a community, I'm a part of a nation state, I'm a part of a species, I'm a part of an ecosystem. And I recognize that my path is to honor my involvement with each of these. Close quote. Now, we as dancers know how important connectedness is in our life and this sense of community. But it's not only for the improved quality of our life as a eupsychic factor, but to return to my initial topic, feeling connected is also important for our health. Okay, I mentioned that everyone seems to have a different meaning for the word spirit. Here is a second common definition of spirit. Some people think of a spirit as mood. She's in good spirits today, or that is so dispiriting. So bring a generous, supportive mood into your dancing. Smile. In social dancing, lead with a warm tone of voice. Follow with animation and encouragement. Compliment your partner. Lead or follow. Try to put them in a good mood. If you bring either one of these two definitions of spirit into your dancing, it will improve the experience for both you and the others. Then integrating both of these definitions of spirit at the same time into your dancing is even better. Feel the connection to the others with warmth, kindness, and a smile. Okay, now another health benefit of dance is through music. Research has shown measurable changes in lower cortisol and raised serotonin levels when listening to music. Serotonin is the neurotransmitter that contributes to feelings of well-being and happiness, or oppositely, low levels of serotonin are linked to depression. But that's only if you truly listen to the music, not just use it as background sounds, or just using it as a metronome for your dance steps. To better benefit from the health benefits of music, bring it into your primary awareness. That means deeply listen to the music, and freshly, as if hearing it in a new way, not for the 100th time. Like, what else can you notice in that familiar tune? And mentally sing it in your mind while dancing. And that will also make your dancing more musical in subtle ways. Okay, now another health benefit of dancing is the fact that dance allows an opportunity for socially condoned physical contact. One researcher says, if you just rub your fingers together like this, that just makes a small boost in your immune system. That's actually measurable. Contact with others is much more. So our culture doesn't offer many opportunities for this. Humans thrive on physical contact. You probably know this starts early, at birth. Several studies have found up to 47% greater weight gain in preterm newborns who receive a light massage compared to newborns who receive only standard medical treatment, despite identical caloric intake. In addition, mothers who participate in the study benefit themselves. They see a significant decrease in postpartum depression. And fathers who participate see an improvement in their relationship with their child. But not many people know that this continues into our adulthood, as studies have consistently shown that carrying physical contact is associated with a wide range of positive outcomes for physical and mental health for people of all ages. These benefits include decreasing anger, aggression, anxiety, blood pressure, depression, and stress, while improving immune function, attention, cognitive function, mood, sleep quality, and self-esteem. Even the light touch of holding someone's hand in a line dance boosts these factors, and the embrace of closed dance position is even more so. Unfortunately, we live in a society starved for contact, where people are rarely encouraged to touch and have shifted to online connections. So overall, dance is the perfect way to integrate all of these positive factors into your life. And the emphasis is on integrating them. Integration means together now. It's different from balance. Now, balance isn't bad. It's better than imbalance, but it isn't as complete as integration. If you pursue balance, you can do some mind work in the morning, some body work in the afternoon, and some spiritual work when you find the time, and then relax, hoping that everything balances out over the span of a week. Integration means that at every moment you are balanced and whole. And dance can be a perfect practice of the simultaneous integration of mind, body, and spirit, mind, body, and connectedness with a smile, while remaining relaxed. And when I say the perfect practice, I mean practice in the sense of enacting, not rehearsing. It's a practice. The combined holistic interplay of positive factors in dancing is perhaps the most important consideration. Yes, we do need to reduce the stress in our lives because stress hormones cause our immune system to fail and hampers our memory, impairs digestion, takes its toll on the reproduction system, and leads to an early death from cardiovascular disease. And today I presented several strategies for lowering stress, particularly through dance. But it gets better through a holistic interplay of these positive factors: the stress-reducing benefit of accepting others and being accepted, dancing and living life as a moving meditation through dynamic equanimity, the health benefits of feeling connected and not isolated with kindness, the mood elevation that comes from deeply listening to the music as you dance, the healing power of physical contact, and the holistic combination of all of these factors at the same time. But after all of our best intentions, it's all for naught if we don't get up out of our comfortable chair. It's all too easy to feel lazy and want to stay home. It's easy to say, I'm too busy. As Lao Tzu wrote, time is a created thing. To say, I don't have time is like saying, I don't want to. So we can hear all of these thoughts. We can understand them. We can agree with them. But nothing will improve until we get up, go out, and do it, including going out dancing. It takes being mindful of these ideas, or at least some of them, as we continue to dance with lower stress and more awareness, on the dance floor and off. And that's my talk for today.